Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Nabil Betinjani, and I'm the Data Programs Coordinator at the McGill School of Continuing Studies. Today, we are very grateful to have with us from ScaleAI, Elodie and Etienne, and from Bell Canada, we have Francesca and Bassel, who will be telling us about, we'll start with ScaleAI, who's going to go over the programs they have and the state of AI in Canada. And after that, they're going to turn it over to Bell Canada to tell us about how they implemented a program in place. So I'll take it forward and turn it over to Elodie.
Actually, Etienne, so Etienne, you can go. You can start.
Thank you, Nabil. Thank you, Elodie. It's a pleasure to be here to present a bit more about ScaleAI before we jump into the conversation with Bell. So for those of you who are not familiar, ScaleAI, we could be called a supercluster, but at the end of the day, we like to be presented more as an innovation and an investment hub. And those two words are key to us because from an investment standpoint, we've received close to $300 million worth of funding from the government that we plan to distribute to different AI initiatives in Canada. And we're also an innovation hub because our goal is to help companies find each other, whether it's from the private sector, whether it's startups, or even with academia, as you'll see later on. So really bringing all these great minds together to help further a goal around bringing AI to more organizations to help with companies looking to either adopt or commercialize AI. And the goal, the reason we received this funding is twofold. First, there's been a ton of great advancements in AI throughout the last decades in terms of, you name it, machine learning, optimization. There's a huge caliber of researchers working in Canada. But there's a challenge around how this knowledge can get into the hands of organizations, into the field. And so part of our mission is to help this transfer. And we're specifically targeting supply chains, which before the last year or so wasn't very well known, wasn't necessarily something very sexy. But today, everyone knows about the importance of supply chains. And so our goal is to use these advanced technologies to help further Canadian supply chains. It's good to know that we're also part of a family. There's 4 other superclusters spread across Canada. ScaleAI is based in Montreal. We have a team in Toronto as well, but our mandate is national. So we can work with organizations across Canada, and we have. It's also good to note that these other superclusters each have their own specialty. So they're not focused on AI, they're not focused on supply chain, but they might be of interest depending on where your interests lie. So if you're not familiar with them, I would encourage you to look them up as well. Broadly speaking, and this is meant to just give you a quick overview of ScaleAI, we have 3 programs. So if you think of it as a way that our funding is going to be distributed, most of our funding is going towards project funding, meaning we can pay back companies who are looking to run their own AI projects within their organizations. This is where roughly 2/3 of our funding is going. But in order to do projects, companies we're meeting either have challenges getting the skills, getting the right experts in order to deliver those projects, or even earlier on, as you'll see with the journey that we typically see, some companies even are at the stage where they need to understand what exactly AI means for them. And so another big focus when you think of the way we distribute our funds is regarding workforce development and specifically AI training. And there's a last portion that's focused on creating the next generation of AI supply chain companies, and that's acceleration, in which we'll be supporting some of the largest AI accelerators and incubators across Canada to help grow the next generation of startups. If you think of that first slice, right, the large slice of our funding, going towards projects, this is where we've seen a tremendous amount of interest on all sides, from companies looking to sell new kinds of solutions, or companies looking to adopt AI within their organizations. We'll hear later about Bell's story when it comes to upskilling their teams. Bell also was featured here with one of our first projects that we funded. And as you can see, they're in good company. So we have officially over $170 million worth of projects that we've funded so far, and many more to come. And so if you're interested, you'll see these are really diverse examples of the ways AI and supply chain can work together. There's a few capsules, a few videos on our website if you're interested in learning more about any of these. But broadly speaking, when you look at the ways...
I'm sorry, Etienne, I just want to check with every participant. Are you able to see the presentation, all the slides moving? Because on my side, I have to change that.
No, I don't see the slides moving myself.
I see. So we're now on page 7, but perhaps Nabil, you will need to make me presenter again.
Okay, let me see if I can do that.
Thank you, Elodie.
That was perfect, but I know you work a lot on the presentation.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, thank you.
Good. So this was a great memory exercise. I'll just skip through the slides. I think Nabil, we'll be sharing this presentation after this call, but for those of you who are more visual, let's just make sure that I cover. So I think most importantly, Canada's map, where you can see where the other superclusters are situated, our funding. So hopefully I described this well enough for you. It wasn't a very complex pie chart. I'm sure the caliber of people on the call here is very high. So I think this was clear. And then lastly, most importantly, because I didn't run through the logos, the name of the companies who've done projects, I think this slide speaks a lot. So great timing, Elodie. Thank you for calling it out at this point in time. So as you can see here, Bell, very early participant in the project funding side of what we do, but also many other great companies across Canada doing AI projects. So briefly, and this is an area that's very interesting to us, is where do we see potential for AI specifically related to supply chains? And for those who are not familiar with supply chains, essentially what I like to say is pretty much any company is part of a supply chain, and any company has its own supply chain to take care of. So it's very, very difficult to find someone who doesn't see value in investing into supply chains. But what does it mean, right? And so what we have here are some examples. You'll see that the projects that we have funded align with either one or many of these areas. And we typically see a lot of interest where companies are looking to improve their demand forecasting, because that's the main driver. Understanding what might happen helps them predict other things that will need to happen later on, whether it's how many customers might come, what products might sell, or even any disruptions that some of the supply chain partners may face. There's, of course, many different areas of interest. We're seeing a lot of interest in terms of pricing, promotion, as well as scheduling, really big these days, as you can imagine. So really not meant to be an exhaustive list, but these are areas that we've targeted because we really see not just a need for better solutions, but a great potential for AI to change the way these different processes are done. And so back to your company. We're seeing companies that are across the spectrum in terms of maturity, and that could be your company as a whole, or it could be your team. We've seen teams that are very advanced, but working to convince others in their company to move forward with regards to AI. And the good news is, from our perspective, we can support we can support your team, your organization at every stage of this journey, where if you start off just with a broad understanding, what is AI? What does AI mean for you, for your team, for your company? We can already help you along that path with funding for training, and you'll get to hear a lot about this in a minute. And the important point to note is once you know what you want to do, ScaleAI can also support you, whether it's funding your projects or even helping you connect with other members in the ecosystem. So hopefully this gives you a picture of what ScaleAI does. But without further ado, I think a lot of you are here to also learn about the funding that's available for training, such as from partners like McGill, and what it means with partners like Bell, who are going to explain all of this to us. So I'll pass it on to Elodie, who can share a bit more about the training programs.
Thank you, Etienne, for this great introduction about ScaleAI. Well, if we focus more on training, we have 4 programs running. But for trainings, well, we know that AI can be scary. We know that you have to be trained on diverse subjects. This is why we start well, let's say the spectrum of the eligible project is very wide. That we start with from BI. So maybe if you can switch, yeah. So every subject, every training project, starting from descriptive analytics to prescriptive analytics, are eligible to the programs we offer. So if you have one thing to remember about this webinar, is that if you have a training with the subject is about data, we should talk, because we definitely can help you with that. But if we talk more generally, and you can switch, Etienne, we have 3 main objectives with the programs we are currently running. The first one is to promote. We have a youth awareness program in STEM, and the objective with that is to help you recruit the talents in the next future. We have the second objective to foster with the creation of 10 research chairs in the near future also. And the major objective, and why we are here today, is to encourage people, actual workers in Canada, to continuing their education regarding the data and all this question. If we focus on continuing education, we have 2 main streams. The first one is public training. What we do with public training, we work with the major institution as McGill. You can switch the slide, Etienne. Yeah, thank you. So we work with major continuing education as McGill, and what we do is that we validate the actual classes and courses that this school has to offer. And once we have done that, we found 50% of the fees for every workers in Canada. We have a catalog available online. I think with McGill and Nabil, maybe you have another data, but I think we have like more than 5 programs actually running. So it's a pretty good start. You will find a lot of trainings starting from introduction to AI to very specialized training, and I think that Bill will also talk about that, because they have a pretty great experience with you. So if you are looking for a training, well, the catalog can be a very good start. But we also know that every organization is different. You have your own objective, and if you have more than 1 people or 2 people, let's say, to train on the same subject, custom training can be an option. With this program, we can fund up to 85% of the eligible cost. The idea to this program is to help you customize the perfect training with the perfect trainer for your organization. So it's very agile program, very flexible, and you can work with amazing trainers as McGill has. And I think Belle will expose more deeply the objective of the program, but I will be very happy to answer your question about all the eligibility process and everything. But I think now the best way to talk about this program is to let Belle explain their experience with ScaleAI and McGill and all the whole process and the benefit they obtain from this collaboration. So now I would like to introduce Francesca and Basil for this Q&A session. So Basil, you're a senior manager in finance, and Francesca, senior manager in finance transformation. Maybe before starting this Q&A session, I would let you introduce yourself on maybe more precisely your role into the organization and regarding this project.
Okay, thank you, Elodie.
Who want to start?
I'll start if that's okay, Francesca.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right, so my name is Basil Bitar. I do work in finance, business decision support. That's the name of my team. In reality, my background is engineering. I spent 15 years working in engineering, designing network architecture, and then I joined the finance team. And the role of my team is to support other business units in making business decisions, understanding the costs of the network, the cost of the services and products. Francesca?
Awesome. Thanks, Basil. My name is Francesca. Hello to all of you. I am here based in Mississauga, Ontario. I've been working for Bell this is my 14th year. I joined Bell when I graduated, and if Basil is an engineer, I am a trained accountant, so I'm a CPA. My job, though, is very different now. I'm part of the finance transformation team, and I'm also the program lead for the finance new grad program and the summer intern program for Bell. Thanks, Elodie. Back to you.
Thank you, Basil and Francesca, for the introductions. So we had a few questions for you, and hopefully these are useful to people on the call. Let's start first with why AI, right? What drove your team to seek out training in data science and really put the time and effort, the budget towards something like this? Whereas I'm sure you have many other competing priorities in your day-to-day. So what really led you down this path in the first place?
Well, currently in finance, we're in a transformative stage, which is the team I'm on. Finance transformation is in charge of that. And in a nutshell, that means that we as a finance team, we're evolving. We're focusing on streamlining processes, teams, and more importantly, we're introducing new tools of the future, as we call them. Now, in order for all the pieces of the transformation puzzle to work, we do need to make sure that our colleagues are upskilled so that we increase their minimum level of digital proficiency. These tools will just be decorations if no one uses them. Now, we need to increase the dexterity and comfort of our finance team members so that they can develop the analytical mindset to use these tools. A lot of them are scared to use it at the beginning. We need them to be able to identify use cases and also overcome pre-existing challenges that they may have so that they can implement data-driven solutions. It's a big project going on in Bell right now, and you're going to hear more about it, but we're happy we were able to partner with McGill and with ScaleAI's help on bringing our vision to life.
And when you mentioned your team, are you talking only about finance? Can you talk a bit about which colleagues, which different groups were involved?
Yes, it's a finance-wide objective for sure. We have a national finance team across the country. The particular group of people that enrolled for the McGill course, it's a joint effort from Basil's team, so Business Decision Support, Capital Center of Excellence, Controllers Group, and Finance Operations. So we had very eager learners from those teams. Now, just to touch on the global spectrum that I'm referring to here when I say finance, we can't send everyone to the McGill course all at once. That's about 1,000 people all at once. We can't do that. The goal is to expand digital dexterity. However, we are cognizant that our colleagues all learn differently and may prefer different learning methods, synchronous and asynchronous. And we did a lot of research in this particular group. It worked well for them to go through the McGill training.
Elodie, do you want to dig deeper?
No, well, do you have more information? Well, can you explain more what convinced you to choose the data science course in McGill? What were the main objectives?
Sure, I'll take this one, Francesca. Okay, so we were looking for training in data analytics. Basically, we wanted to build a strong foundation in data analytics before we start dealing with a certain tool or a certain technology in particular. Data science for business decision, the course we took, is an introductory course in data analytics, yet it does touch on many different technologies. And also it explains the functionalities of Alteryx, a very important tool in this domain, and Tableau as well. So we did find all the material we want in this course. And also McGill was able to customize the course even further so that they satisfy our needs, really. We had a few sessions with McGill where we explained what we want to get out of the course, and McGill did customize, I think, 20 to 30% of the content of the course so that it's suitable for us. The other reason is that this course was offered by McGill School of Continuing Studies, which means the instructors are used to deal with professionals and adults from the industry, which applied to us. So it was quite convenient.
Yeah, thank you, Basil. And maybe, do you have any idea what were the challenges that your colleague faced during the 10 weeks classes, the courses? Because it was a pretty intense course you designed.
It was. Certainly, the biggest challenge was the commitment, the time commitment. It's a course of 10 sessions. Each session is 3 hours. And it's usually offered over a 10-week period. Now, because of the workload, McGill was able to introduce a few breaks between the sessions, which was very appreciated by the participants because we were able to deal with the workload. And also, we do need the time to do the homeworks, the assignments, and do some pre-readings before the courses, before the sessions. There were a few challenges also with installing Alteryx and Tableau on our machines, for work, but we dealt with that at the beginning of the course. And within 2 weeks period, almost 2 to 3 weeks, everything was addressed.
Very interesting. And let's talk about the way you got funding, right? Some people are used to these different options when it comes to funding. There's a lot of different programs in Quebec. So how was your experience getting funding from ScaleAI?
I'll take this one, Basil.
Sure.
You know what? The truth is, it was relatively easy. Paperwork aside, you can't get away from paperwork. The key component, I think, just thinking back about this experience, which took about 2 to 3 months cumulatively, the key component was the open communication between all three parties, between the Bell team, the ScaleAI team, and the McGill team. Basil said, McGill was more than willing to customize the dates of the course for us. And we had spoken openly with ScaleAI as well about our intentions for this training. And Basil and I, by nature, ask a lot of questions. And I think all parties were just open to answering our questions and were very patient. So to be honest, relatively seamless. And we were committed to the training. And so the whole process was quite enjoyable. It's just everyone's so busy. So a lot of emails back and forth and a lot of phone calls and video calls.
And if I'm not mistaken, Bell was among the first or some of the first programs that we selected. So there wasn't much publicity. How did you learn about ScaleAI? What made you aware of this opportunity here?
Basil is the prime researcher here.
Yes.
Go ahead, Basil.
I spent a few months actually researching on the internet what courses are available, what programs are available. And I contacted McGill School of Continuing Studies. And through Nabil, I learned about ScaleAI. When I went to the website of ScaleAI and I read about the program and I read about the projects that were done, I noticed that Bell Canada actually did some projects already with ScaleAI, which I didn't know. But like you said, it wasn't publicized at the time. But thanks to Nabil, we did learn about it.
And this is probably a question that many people must face within their organization. What would have happened without the funding? What was the choices? What were your options if you weren't able to get this funding?
Well, the nature of finance is always cost optimization. It's the way we're trained, the way we think. However, one of the beauties about being with Bell Finance is they do prioritize training. So truthfully, regardless of whether the funding was approved or not for ScaleAI, we would have proceeded with it. However, the case we made about getting the support from ScaleAI was the kickstart. I don't even think we had to convince our leaders. It was a yes all around. So I think we would have still proceeded. However, it was always it's helpful to get funding from ScaleAI as well.
And in case some people on the call are interested, right? What are some of those parts of the experience that you can share? So what should people expect when it comes to the application process?
I'll take this one, Basil. So I think the first, if I'm to give advice, first thing is do your research first, whatever the course may be. And I vouch for McGill's course on this. Do your research and then be open with the communication that you want, and what are your objectives for this training. And for the leaders out there who would like to proceed with training, whether it be with McGill or maybe with McGill but from a different department, the concept of training sounds easier before it's executed. And like Basil says, your learners need to be committed, and there needs to be they need to be held accountable as well. So there needs to be a set performance metrics after that. So we're doing that right now. Actually, we're talking to each one. We're checking if they're actually instituting what they learned from the 10 weeks, right? Because that is the purpose of why we put them through that course. Anything on your end, Basil?
Yeah, I might add, AI is happening. Data analytics is important. I think people should realize that this is happening right now, and your teams will need the training. We do need to build, strong foundation for people to introduce automation, to work on, newer technologies. So do it. Do take the training. And the government is offering, the federal and the provincial government are offering funding, to support you. ScaleAI is funneling this funding with an easy process. Use the funding. You will need it.
Sure. If I can add something to Basil, and I mentioned this at the beginning, every learner will be different, and you need to be aware of that, and you need to be aware of the different levels of proficiency that your colleagues may have. So you have to curate that training for them. And again, can't thank McGill enough for doing that for us, for curating the time, curating the lessons. So hopefully that Basil and I were able to provide insight to the leaders on this call today.
Actually, I have one last question for you, because I think this training impacted your daily job. Could you just maybe describe some situation where you felt that the training helped you on your daily job, and see the impact, the real impact the training can have on an organization?
Sure, I'll take this one. So the objective for us in my team, and also some of my colleagues, is really to introduce more automation and reduce manual intervention when we deal with data. We did want to build data models end-to-end completely. No intervention whatsoever, if possible, of course. But that was the objective. And we know that other teams are also introducing data analytics. And if we are able to introduce a model end-to-end, then when we interact with other teams, they might be able to take our output and also process or automate how they deal with the data. So end-to-end was key for us. and we really needed newer tools in order to build models and manipulate data end to end. Prior to taking the course, when we were trying to justify the business case, although we did talk about the funding from ScaleAI to our executives, we did create 7 use cases to explain what we could do with, newer technologies. They were good, but they were very high level. When we finished the course with McGill, and that was only 2 weeks ago, just in the last 2 weeks, we did identify 13 additional use cases, things that we could do right away. Our skills had improved, significantly. What we identified in terms of use cases will introduce automation. We're confident that they can be done. And I think by next year, we're going to see the impact right away from the training that we took and from the usage of Alteryx and Tableau and the newer technologies. So definitely we felt the impact in our environment.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing, Basil and Francesca. I think especially, understanding that it's a training that goes beyond a single person, that now a larger team can use the same common understanding around some principles to better collaborate and even identify new opportunities to apply AI in the organization. This is really a great example. We've talked a lot about McGill, and I think we have a few more minutes before we jump into the Q&A. The last thing I'll mention is if anyone is interested in learning more about our training, you can contact us by email or even register in order to get all the latest news. But without further ado, I'll change the slides here and have our friend Nabil share a few more words. I'll be sure to share the slides this time. Elodie, can you also see this? Very good.
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you, Etienne.
Before we go into the next couple of slides, I just wanted, I was so intrigued when I was listening to the presentations. As a participant, Basil, I'm putting you on the spot. What was the coup de coeur? What was the, if you had one thing that kind of really impressed you during the course, what was that one thing? What would that one thing be?
Okay, good question, but I can't single out one thing. I have to talk about a few points. I truly enjoyed the readings. Every class, we had to read a few articles before we joined the session, and the readings were excellent. We got to understand why data analytics is so important. We got to understand what's changing in the behavior of consumer, for example, how business plans are changing. And we got that through the readings. So that was nice. The other coup de coeur was Alteryx as a tool. It's beautiful. I love it. So strong, much better than Excel. And us, my team, we are power users of Excel. We do so many things with Excel, and we do it very well. But Alteryx is a completely different world. So, two coup de coeur.
Excellent. And what about the workload?
Oh, that's not a coup de coeur. We estimate that while we were taking the course, about 20% of our time was spent on the course, between attending the sessions, the homeworks, the readings, everything. But 20% is 1 day out of 5. 1 day out of 5, so 1 day in a week, basically. It's time consuming, very important. Considering the knowledge we gained, I think it was worth it. But sometimes some teams, some people cannot afford to spend so much time. So before going that road, people should commit their time and reserve the time.
Wonderful. Just to bring everything together, and definitely we're grateful for ScaleAI and Bell to talk about the funding, the programs, what's going on, and how a use case of how we can take a program forward, I just wanted to highlight that we have, the programs we have right now, we have three broad lines. We have what we call professional development certificates of 5 courses in data analytics for business, data science and machine learning, and applied artificial intelligence. We're going to give you this presentation. It's a very short presentation. What's important in here is in it, you'll find all, if you want to read more information, you want to learn about these programs and what's in them, all the, if you can walk through the slides, you cannot really appreciate it, but all of the information is in there. We talk about the 2 certificates, what's in there. Next slide. The fact that the Applied Artificial Intelligence PDC is a follow-up professional development after you finish your data science and machine learning one. And here, you have to do the first program to do the second one, or you come straight from the industry with a lot of experience and you do an assessment. And if you want to know more, it's on the next slide. That's you'll have these links and you can go on them. There's going to be an information session on November 22nd. And we have recordings of previous ones that we have done in specific areas to tell you what's going on. I just wanted to also highlight the fact, there's my contact, and if you can go 2 slides forward, the one after, I wanted to highlight the presence of Alejandro with us. Alejandro is someone who does an amazing amount of work with us, and he, co-taught with me along with Amar. So, he's with us today. He's in the background. Thank you, Alejandro. All of our contact information is here. What I want to do right now is, obviously, I can't say thank you enough to everyone, but we're going to open up the session right now to question and answers. So it's from the audience. If you have any questions you would like to ask, ScaleAI or Bell Canada, please ask them, and we'll take it. You can enter them through the chat. I believe that will be probably the best way to do it, and we will answer them for you. I think the chat will be the best way to do it. While we're waiting for questions to come our way, I just wanted to, maybe I can take over, or actually let me know. Any questions?
Nabil, sorry to interrupt. I do see a question here from Naveen, and who wants to know if this course, Professional Development Certificate in Data Science and Machine Learning, I think they're wanting to know if that's what was taught to the Bell Group. If I understand the question correctly.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Is this course, so I think they want to know if the course that we were talking about in reference to Bell Canada, if it's the Professional Development Certificate in Data Science and Machine Learning.
Yes, it is the first course in that. So here we talked about customizing the data, the first course, which is YCBS 256, Data Science for Business Decisions. That was the course that we used. It's a common course between the data science program and the data analytics program. It's the kind of the foundation course. That's the course that we customized for Bell, and we took out some, we took out some material and added some new material to make it focused on Bell's requirements. I see a question here, which is an interesting one. I think this is kind of, I'll kind of throw it back at, to Basil, I think. Do you feel that technical staff and executive staff have different training needs in this area? So we're talking specifically about this course, then I'll probably take it one level higher. But Basil, what's your view from the people that attended the course?
I do think they have different needs. I guess technical staff, they need the hands-on experience, right? They do need to touch the tool and use it and understand how it works and what can be done. Executives or people working in management, I guess they do need to understand how things work, but at a higher level. They do need probably to understand the conceptual part of the course. The course that McGill is talking about, maybe 50% of the course is conceptual. And I think that's very relevant for management.
Yeah, we do see different needs. So for Eliza, the question was asked by Eliza. we do see a difference between what executives would need and technical people would need. However, there are some common areas, and those common areas are necessary for people to have a common language to discuss what, when we talk about data strategy, when we talk about, how, ethics, when we talk, there's a lot of topics that are topics that everyone within the organization should be listening to at all levels, because they create a common language. They provide frameworks that people can discuss together, and they can understand and work together to solve, business problems through data.
We have a question here from Danny about Python. If you go into Python in this course.
In this course, no, we do not go into Python. And I'll explain it from my perspective, then I'll, if Belle wants to take it over from there. As the first course in a program, we want people to understand how everything fits together. And to do that, we felt that the right way to go about it is to give a tool, a data science tool, which is low code or no code, to get people to understand how to work with data and solve problems with data, clean data, bring data together, transform it, create models, and move forward. With a period of 10 weeks, there's, you cannot do all of that and learn all the concepts and learn about visualization using Python. So what we do in parallel for people who want to continue into a data science program is this is the time that we ask them to take, self-learning courses to move forward in their skills and learn more about how do you, work, on a day-to-day basis with programming. So you're ready for the next course, which comes after this one on the technical side, which is called the statistical machine learning course. So we want people to use the time during the course, I won't use the word the extra time because this is an intensive course, but use the 10 weeks to find time to make sure that they know Python and they go back and review their statistics so they're able to move into statistical machine learning. Do you have any comments on that, Bassett? Or, I'm looking at you because you're the one who went through the course.
No, not really. I nothing to add really, maybe in this case.
Yeah.
We have two other questions here, one for Belle and one for ScaleAI. For Belle, how does Belle manage to train new employees that are joining the team after the McGill training took place, assuming they keep transferring the knowledge acquired with the newcomers?
I can take this one.
Please.
Basil, now if I try to paraphrase that question, for employees that missed out, I guess, on the first group that took the McGill course, we are assessing whether we should be putting together another group to put through the McGill course. Now, Basil's team, for example, I'm going to use Basil's team, business decision support, about 6 of them took the training, and now they're all very well, they're propelled in terms of their learning. Now, to transfer that knowledge, I think it's going to be useful. However, there's also more training for Basil to do because now he needs to do and practice what he learned from McGill. Now, the new employees that joined that missed out on this course, so they can either start with self-learning and then we can put them through the McGill course, or they can learn from Basil's team or from the other team members who joined the course but are not in Basil's team. So what we're trying to build here is a community. So we're trying to build a community where we can start to have that AI community in Bell Finance and teach each other as well. But there's still the need for formal training. I'm not sure who asked the question, if that helped out.
Thank you. We have a question for ScaleAI here. Will ScaleAI continue to provide funding discounts for all the McGill courses in the data science for business program?
Ada, did you want to take that one?
I'm not sure how I had understood the question.
I guess it's a question about how much longer the funding will be available, or you're going to continue to provide the discounts.
Well, yes. Officially, ScaleAI funding are available to March, end of March 2023. So that's the date to remind.
That's a good reminder for everyone, March 2023. We have a question here for Basil. Did you gather any data on the return from having done the program? I guess it's still fresh for you guys, so I'm not sure.
No, but it's a good question. I understand why it's coming. I get the same question from my manager and from our executives. They would love, obviously, they would love to see some numbers. If we can quantify, the benefits, the return on investment, and especially the time we invested in the course. Like you said, it's still fresh. It's difficult to estimate. We know for sure that there will be impact right away. Like I mentioned, in the last 2 weeks only, we finished the course on October 8th, and literally in the last 2 weeks, we did identify 13 new projects where we can introduce, automation and use Alteryx. So the benefits are there for sure. To put a number, I can't. I really can't. Difficult. Perhaps in a few months.
That's a very
thank you. We have a question about the process for funding. What's the process for financial assistance? Is just applying for the course enough?
For the public training, I can take this one. For the public training, well, you just have to go on the website of the university and register to do class. And I think maybe Nabil, you want to talk about how you manage the process for the public training. But if we focus on the custom training, how it works, well, you first of all, you have to meet the trainer you will choose for your organization and develop the training plan you think it's the best for you. So definitely we can help with that too. We can share experience we have, but the most important thing is to work with the trainer you're going to choose, because it's very important that the trainer understands the objective you have with this training. After that, you have a first form to fill into our website. This will help us identify whether the subject is eligible or not. Usually it's pretty quick and there's no surprise, because as mentioned, the moment your training project is about data, well, there's no issue, it's admissible, it's eligible. After that, we will ask you to fill in another form. It's a bit more complete, but it will take maybe 1 hour to complete. So it's not so much, and that will help us identify the eligible cost. And that's it for you. It's going to be over. You will just have to share the training proposal for the trainer, the name of the trainers, and this form. After that, we will submit it to a committee. In this committee, you have some experts from the industry, from the academic world, and also from government. And this will help us identify the cost, the amount of money you will receive for the training. And the moment you have the response from the committee, you can start the training. And as soon as you have finished the training and you have paid the trainer, well, we will reimburse this cost as soon as possible. So it's pretty easy way to fund your training project. And well, I think it's similar to other programs as Emploi Québec, you may already know, for Quebec participants.
Thank you.
And yes, are non-profits eligible for the custom training? Yes.
So just a follow-up question about the funding. Is there a certain type of level, executive, manager, or other, to be involved to have a successful project being considered by ScaleAI, or are all projects equal?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. I think my connection is pretty bad tonight.
So is there, what level of the company, executive, manager, or other must be involved to have a successful project considered by ScaleAI?
For project or for training? Because for training, it depends on the objective. You know, we have a lot of projects where you have different public for training. You can have a part for your executive, you can have a part for your expert, technological experts. So it depends. But for project, maybe Etienne, you want to talk a bit more about the involvement
Sure.
of the.
I think though the question was really around how to get, if there's a minimum seniority level for training. And this is a question from Pedro. Pedro, feel free to correct. So Elodie, I don't think there's a minimum, right? We don't only train executives as part of this program. We can train employees at all levels. And I think we have seen many examples of companies who are, yes, investing in managers, executives, but also other employees so that they can use data in their day-to-day.
Yes, because every jobs will be impacted. We'll have to evaluate with AI.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight, there was a question, I was looking through the question and answers, or the question section. This is interesting, as a follow-up to this question, it comes at the right time. Elisa Schaefer was asking, as a follow-up, would you recommend to train the executives first so that they're more informed when the technical staff needs to be trained in order to assign time and resources to that training? I'll leave that open. I have a lot of opinions on the topic.
Maybe Bill, yeah. Maybe Bell want to share their experience with that, but I would just say it depends of the organization culture. That's something very very unique.
Coming from a big company, now I'm going to make the assumption that we're talking about executives, we're talking about vice presidents and up. If they're aware of if a needs assessment has been presented to them about here's the needs of our finance team, here are the whys and the so what. I think that, or at least from my experience, that is okay for them. An overview rather than a 10-week course is probably more optimal for our executives. Now, if we're talking about managers, senior manager, directors, the 10-week course, there were opportunities for some directors to sit in for, I sat in for a couple, and the ones that didn't need hands-on training, I sat in, I listened, and I actually learned theory, a lot of theory. So to answer the question directly, I don't recommend from experience that they take the 10-week, but perhaps an overview specialized and customized for executives might be better than having them train on the actual tools that the technical staff might need. What do you think, Basil? Anything to add?
Totally agree. I totally agree, Francesca. For sure, executives do not need 10 sessions, 3 hours each, for sure. Something more focused, concentrated will help a lot, because perhaps the point of the question was also, if executives need to understand what's happening in data analytics in general. And I do think they need to understand what's happening. What we learned from the course with McGill is that most of the newer technologies and what we are using today have been developed over the last 10 years. So unless executives were completely up to speed and following, the trends and what's happening, they probably don't know what happened in the last 10 years. So I do recommend, they get some training, but like Francesca said, something more focused, concentrated, perhaps 2 or 3 sessions, 1 hour each, or a little bit more, should be sufficient.
And if I can, highlight that, I think from a project perspective, right, we're seeing a lot of companies who are coming to us, and I think at the end of the day, there's many kinds of training, right? There could be training if you're looking to upscale your teams so that they really incorporate advanced analytics in their day-to-day. But there's also a different kind of training that maybe speaks to executives just regarding what AI really is, right? We're seeing a lot of companies who come to us saying, well, I've heard about AI. I want to do AI tomorrow morning. Where do I start? What does it really do and what doesn't it do, right? And I think from that perspective, it's a totally different kind of training that is still very useful without going into the Pythons and the Alteryx of this world, right? And I'm sure McGill and our partners could offer a training to address those needs as well.
Thank you. And Nabil, we're having a question here about the format of the course. People are going onto our website and seeing that it's in person and online, and you know, that there's a mix. They want some clarification. So if you can just talk about how we deliver our courses.
Yes. So one of the things is I'm going to, re-emphasize that a lot of the information that we have a more detailed session, a 1 hour session where we explain the details of the courses, individual courses, etc. Just to say that right now we're delivering courses in one out of two ways. One of them is remotely or online courses where we give. This is the way we did it with Bell Canada, where we provide all the information to the students through a learning system, and which they can access at all times. They have before class work. There's the presentations. There's after the class hands-on work, and then there's a quiz they have to go through and assignments, and they do it that way. We also offer, which is the way we always did it, was in-person type training. So, which is the same type of material, but given in person. So those are the two types of material, two types of trainings that we have right now in this program. And given COVID, we're giving both of them.
We have a person here asking about taking the course out of personal interest rather than out of a request of his or her organization. Will financial consideration be given to that person who is just taking it on out of their own personal interest rather than through an organization?
Well, if it's on a personal basis, I think public training is the best option. So as I mentioned, it's a training where we found 50% of the fees. So you just have to register online directly to the organization, the university you choose, and we have the catalog online. We have a strong partnership with McGill.
Excellent. So we're coming to the top of the hour. So before, what we'll do is we will close this presentation or this panel, and if people want to stay a little bit longer to chat, we can do it, but then at least people who want to leave, feel free to leave. So I'll start off by thanking the audience, people who did come, take time out of their busy agendas to be with us and listen to ScaleAI and Bell Canada talk about, what's out there, what programs they have, and how they went about implementing one particular program. We have, lots of thanks for Basil, Francesca, Elodie, and Etienne, who actually also took a lot of time to make this happen, and we spent countless hours discussing how this course should be, how we're going to do things, and, I wanted to say poor Basil. Basil had to go through all this many hours of training on top of it, but this is something that we're very grateful for everyone for doing this. Special thanks also for Lucy for kind of keeping us on track and making sure that this happens, and David and Jessica. I'd also like to throw us, again, I thank Alejandro another time for being with us, Ina and John, who talks a lot about disruption, and the title reflects that, so I wanted to call them out for that. Thank you. And for those who want to continue asking some questions, you're more than welcome to stay, but everyone else, we're grateful to have you with us. We will send you the recording, the slides, and that's it. I think that's more than enough for the time being. And if we have enough, backgrounds, what I'll do is I'll put it into one of the presentations and send it to you. Thank you so much.
I just put up an email. If anyone thinks of a question after we log off, just feel free to email us, and we will disseminate to whoever it needs to go to. It's in the chat. It's pd.content@mcgill.ca. We'll be happy to take your questions there.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and we start seeing people
Thank
dropping
you.
out, which is fantastic.
Bye.
Thank you, Etienne. Thank you, Elodie. Thank you, Basil. Thank you, Francesca. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Did we stop the recording? Lucy, can you